House rules are garbage. Stop using them. Just come on. The game has rules as written. Quit it. Not on this channel, mothers. Let's talk about some common house rules that we say are A-okay. There are 5 house rules that I find very, very appealing that I love to use. The number 1 house rule that I love more than anything else is epic crits. When you actually roll a critical strike and then all of a sudden you roll minimal damage, there's something that just crushes your soul. And especially in 5e, you're not doubling the bonus damage, you're only doubling the dice damage. So something that we've done at our tables now for years, actually before 5e using anything, is when someone actually rolls a crit, the initial damage dice are maxed. So if you're using a great weapon, a great sword, and you have 2d6, you start with 12, you roll 2 more d6, and then you add that together. What that does is that gives you an epic hit, an epic moment that always happens no matter what. Now what happens when you've got a sneak attack and a dagger dice? Well, we max the first sneak attack, we max the first dagger dice, then we roll the additional dice. So what we do is we just simply roll the dice and then add the max of those dice to it. That way your crits feel epic all the time. How do you guys like to do epic crits to make sure that your crits feel like crits? What's your house rule? Another house rule that we absolutely love is not for everyone. Feats for everyone. Now, we don't start off with feats at first level because that's a variant human thing to start off with that feat. I love that. In 3rd edition, your fighter had lots of different feats. But what we like to do is when you get your ASI, you also get your feat. I hate having to choose between ASI, which is going to give me a mechanical advantage of a 5% more increase, or choosing something epic like a feat. I say do both. That's a house rule that I firmly introduce, as long as you as the Dungeon Master understand how feats are going to fundamentally change your game. Feats change the way that player characters function, and you need to understand that. They push players into a different realm of difficulty, which makes it harder to balance encounters as a Dungeon Master. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're actually developing and doing this as using feats all the time. Would you allow on your table feats every time there's an ASI? I want to know. What's your take on it? Another house rule that we absolutely love is when people add actions to boss monsters. What I mean by people, Dungeon Masters, Game Masters, we're talking to you. Here's the deal. When you have a boss monster and your players are going up against it, and you've got attack and attack and a move and attack, and then your boss monster goes move, attack, and then they may have a legendary action. I don't want just epic level fights at the end of the game. Legendary creatures, legendary actions, legendary bosses are usually high CR levels. I love to take a bugbear and allow him to have a parry attack, allow him to have an extra movement, allow him to have a shield slam that he can do as a reaction. Those are the kinds of things, or take another turn, right? So he gets 2 turns where the players get each one of their turns. So he happens at the beginning of the combat, middle of the combat, and not every turn is done by the boss monster, but giving them something so that boss monster feels attacking. Now there's a couple of actual third-party resources out there that have lower level boss monsters, but they are not exactly what I'm looking for. I like the idea of taking a bugbear, maxing out his hit points, giving him parry, giving him a shield slam, and not really changing the creature, but making him feel like, here we go, this is the boss, this is the bad guy. This helps keep down the swing of combat. So if I want to have a difficult fight, but at the same time I don't want to have 2 bugbears, I just take the 1 bugbear, give him an extra action per turn, and then double his hit points, and now I'm going up against 2 bugbears, but I'm going up against a chieftain, and he fights like 2 bugbears. So that's another way to do that, is you can take a monster and simply double the hit points, give them 1 more turn during combat, and just try to keep it realistic. Don't allow them to move 60 feet. Once they move, they've used that action. But they can move and attack, and then when this comes over here, they can parry, and then they can shield slam or shove this one to the ground, or grab ones and pick them up. Give them some actions that feel epic. Let them do things that the normal boss monster or regular monster couldn't do. Make them feel like a boss monster. This is something I firmly endorse. Now, mind you, a lot of people will point out this is actually in the rules. It's in the rules to modify and edit creatures on the fly. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a lot of times we don't consider that written as rules, and it's a house rule. Reality is, it's something you should be doing as your Dungeon Master to make your battles feel more epic. Would you do it? Why or why not? Now, here's the 4th house rule that I absolutely love that's controversial. When you're down, you're not out. until you fail your first or second death saving throw, you can still crawl up to 5 to 10 feet. You can still talk. The problem is that a lot of people say, well, why can't I just take out my trusty health potion and drink my health potion? Because it's not as cool. You're crawling, you're fighting for your life. Maybe you can get your health potion out, but you can't get it to your lips because you're just dying, but you're still, help me. It gives you a chance to talk to your teammates. It gives you a chance to tell people, I'm dying over here. And it makes it so you're not just sitting in the middle of combat. I like the fact of being able to crawl away until you're unconscious. Now, this is controversial, but it's not at the same time. You're not allowed to take actions. You're not allowed to shoot. You're not allowed to do any of those things, but at the same time, you're not out of combat. And you still are important, because what happens when a monster comes over and tries to stab you underground? I like the idea of being able to try to crawl out of the distance. And that also, when we've done this, it takes and makes that player's life feel more important. Because unlike just being dead, you actually get to take someone and say, they're trying to crawl for me. The players tend to go towards that player to help them. For some reason, when someone is down but not out, the other players respond differently. Now, maybe this is just my table. Maybe this is just the people that I've played for. But the moment someone's calling out for help and crawling away, maybe it's human nature that we want to help that person. What do you think about this rule? When someone gets knocked down for the first or second death saving throw, should they be out? Realistically speaking, by the way, they go unconscious after the first failed death saving throw, just so you know. But the death saving throw happens at the end of their turn, meaning when they get dropped, at the next turn comes around to them, they get to do their crawl, move, action, talk, then they roll the death saving throw. That way, no matter what, they still can get some last words in there, because hey, we all want some last words. The other house rule that I firmly support is whenever you get knocked unconscious, you get a level of exhaustion. It's the simple way to keep your players from doing the yo-yo, because once you get 6 levels of exhaustion, you're out, you're done. Once you have 5 levels of exhaustion, you're not getting back up. So you can only yo-yo so many times. After the 3rd yo-yo, well, now you got disadvantage on all your attacks. So this really makes it so players fight more strategically. I firmly endorse this house rule. There's lots of different ways that people like to do this, but you get the gist. One of the biggest complaints about D&D 5e combat is when I hit you and you drop, all you have to do is walk over and stick a good berry in my mouth and I'm up like Mario, good again. It's like the little mushroom that falls down, right? We don't like that. So adding that level of exhaustion gives your players a chance to not, well, it gives them a chance to feel more in danger, which I think is very important. So something to keep in mind. Would you use this exhaustion rule? It's been talked about a lot lately, but I want to see how popular it is. So those are 5 things that we love to do when it comes to house rules that we fully endorse, but there's some caveats to it. Remember, house rules are not for every table. And while it may work at my table, it may not work at your table. But we just encourage you to think outside the box and do the things that you love to do when playing this game. No matter what, guys, make sure that you like the channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all that stuff, comment below, tell us what you think. And again, we will see you next time. And thank you so much for helping us grow this channel. See you guys.